Hello, Guitar Smarts fans. Before you check out this podcast, I want to make you aware of a cool new place where you can interact with other Guitar Smarts listeners. It's a Facebook group called the Guitar Geek Hangout. That's where we hang out and talk about all things guitar. So, if you like the Guitar Smarts podcast, come and chat with Kiran and myself over in the Guitar Geek Hangout on Facebook. Maybe check out some pre-podcast clips and even get involved in asking and answering lots of questions from the other page dwellers. Hope to see you there.
I'm excited though for next year, Matt, when the Murphy Lab will take it to the next level and bring out a 59 Les Paul that's had its headstock snapped off and then repaired and refinished by Tom Murphy. So I'm looking forward to paying £15,000 for an accurate 59 headstock broken but Murphy Lab repaired guitar fresh from the custom shop.
I think Fender are doing the same thing, aren't they? I think they're doing a Monterey Jimi Hendrix Strat, which when you open up the case, it's just a pile of ash with a neck kind of sat to one side. And that's going to be 12 grand, believe it or not.
Well, that's 12 grand well spent.
Greetings! Welcome to another episode of the Guitar Smarts podcast. Thanks very much for joining us. This week, Kiran and I are talking about our influences and our idols, who it is that made us want to pick up the guitar in the first place, and then also who else made us have a new impetus for playing guitar in our lives. Who else has been our influences? And there's not just the first one, there's many influences through our life, and we're discussing who those people have been for us. And as well as that, I'm having a bit of a rant. So Kiran and I are going to have a good old shout about the Gibson Murphy Lab guitars and what we think about them. Stick around for that because it's a good one. Come and say hello to us on our social media pages. You can find us on Facebook at facebook.com/guitarsmarts and on Instagram as well. Instagram handle is at guitar_smarts. Remember to like us in your podcast app so you never miss a show, and you can look forward to more content from us every week on Mondays. Anyway, let's get to it. How are you doing, Kiran? You all right, mate?
I'm really good, mate. As I said just before we started, I'm questioning all my life choices, and it's been one of those weeks where you just think, oh, maybe I should just go and live on a desert island and live off the land, because that's probably what life is all about. But no, for my sins, I'll carry on working because there's always bills to be paid. But I don't want to get too depressing. I'm in a good mood. I'm actually in a good mood. Sorry.
Well, don't forget, a desert island's not a bad place to be, especially considering episodes 3 and 4 of this podcast we covered desert island guitar rigs. Nice link. Terrible segue. Terrible.
Anyway. No, I loved it. No, it's brilliant. That's absolutely right. I quite fancy being on that desert island, especially as we've had some freak weather this week in the UK. So
we've had all the weather, that's available to us. We've had it, haven't we?
Can you imagine being a weatherman, or weather lady, or woman, or weather person? I don't know what the correct term is.
Meteorologist. There you go.
Oh man, I'm feeling special today. I'm really feeling special today. Thank you, mate. Yeah, meteorologist. Let's just call it what its professional name is. That's better.
Let's call a spade a spade. Okay. There we go.
Let's call a meteorologist a meteorologist. Yeah. Snow, sunshine, rain, all within the space of 48 hours.
It's just ridiculous. Yeah.
Amazing.
In fact, on some days we had snow, sunshine, rain, sunshine, snow within the space of about 15 minutes, let alone a week. It was unbelievable.
And the people listening in the US, of which we have many, thankfully, and very gratefully, will be wondering why are we talking about weather? Right, this is a very British thing, right? You very rarely start any conversation without some sort of discussion around the weather.
Unless you're a meteorologist, and then they probably don't. I don't know.
No, that's the day job. Wow.
So have you found much time for guitar this week?
I have, mate. Yeah, I have actually. I've been inspired to do some more playing this week, just from our conversations, really, and seeing some of the things that you'd put up on Instagram and on our kind of podcast website, Matt, of your playing, and also on your own site, which were just, actually, I really enjoyed listening to them. And you've kind of held true to your word about pushing yourself in some practicing and some playing that you're looking to focus on. And I thought, oh, wow, damn it, he's really committing and doing this stuff that we're talking about. So I was like, right, I need to do this. So yeah, I've been trying to push myself as well and do some more playing and learn some songs that have been a bit challenging. So this week's challenge for myself was the Dry County solo from Bon Jovi, one of Sambora's finest, that I've always been a little bit afraid to attempt, but I'm getting into it, and it's starting to sound passable now. So it's been a good week. It's been a good week for guitar playing.
Awesome. I haven't had really much chance, to be honest, to play it, except for a little bit of noodling around here and there. But what I have done, actually, and I guess our listeners can't see this, but what I did is I bought on Amazon, some, do you know, like some cue cards or some, like, you know, these little cards that you use for kind of, maybe you're writing speeches or you're learning things and you have little cue cards. So I bought some on Amazon, and what I've done on them is on one side of the card I've written like the name of a chord, A major.
Oh yeah.
And on the other side I've got like the notes that make up A major, and then what the seventh or the other extensions would be from the major scale. Okay. And I'm just trying to spend a bit of time every so often just looking at a card, A major, and going, okay, that would be A, C sharp, and E for the third and the fifth, and then checking on the other side. Yeah, okay. And I'm just trying to.
That's great.
So this is kind of going back to what I said previously about trying to learn the chords before I learn the solo, and trying to understand more about harmony than I do about, you know, melody or scales and things like that. And I'm just trying to reinforce in my mind my knowledge of chords and of harmony, and just trying to get it sat in there so I can, again, it's about trying to learn the fretboard a little bit more. So
yeah.
So I've been doing that.
Who have you been listening to this week? Anyone that's kind of you're really kind of into this week?
Toto.
When is it not Toto?
I don't know if I'm going to be able to climb out of this this hole that Ollie Browning very, you know, well pointed out.
You are deep in his tambu. Yeah, exactly.
I'm deep in there, man. I'm stuck. I think maybe a black hole. I'm past the event horizon. I don't know. But,
my goodness.
Just still listening to a lot of kind of yacht rock, I guess some people would call it. You know, a lot of that 80s. Late 70s kind of stuff. Stuff that I guess you could say is a little bit more kind of sophisticated. But I'm enjoying listening to anything really that's quite sophisticated harmony-wise. But I'm not really getting into jazz or anything yet. I kind of feel like that's a risky thing to do. I think I should just concentrate on stuff that I'm enjoying now and let that, you know, carry on for a bit. But yeah, other than that, I mean, I'm working at home, so I've got Spotify on a lot of the time, just listening to whatever comes on. So yeah, good.
There's a Spotify playlist then that you'll enjoy called Yacht Rock.
I'm all over it.
You've got that one. You've got that
absolutely.
One. I was going to say that's definitely a playlist for you, which has got some great tracks.
Oh yeah,
some really good tracks.
Some superb tracks.
So yeah, listening wise, I was just listening actually before we started chatting today to Joey Landreth on YouTube because I was just doing a little bit more reading up on some new Les Pauls that have come out from Gibson in the last week, which we're going to have a chat about. I can see your head in your hands already. And actually, in the process of just looking up some of that stuff on YouTube earlier this week, I stumbled across some sessions that Joey Landreth had done for, I think it's Carter's Guitar Centre, or forgive me if I've got that wrong, but
I think it's Carter's Vintage Guitars, isn't it?
Thank you. You've seen them as well.
I think I've seen some, because there's a few other guitarists that have done some videos for them.
Yeah, right.
He's ridiculous, Joey Landreth.
Oh, isn't he?
Just, it's not fair.
It's not fair.
It isn't fair.
No, it really isn't. I mean, he's clearly talented beyond measure. He's obviously made a mark in the guitar world, and for very good reason. And he just makes it look effortless, and you just go, oh, you know what? I'm going to go and take up fly fishing this week instead. I think it's just, but actually what I would say is that his facility on the guitar and the tone that he's got, I actually found it quite inspiring to watch, but also equally mesmerizing, where you just go, it's going to be a while before I can try and replicate some of that stuff. But yeah, really inspiring stuff. And we're going to talk about people that inspire us later today. But so Matt, Gibson, they've released some interesting new guitars this week. How do you feel about those?
It just drives me insane. The Murphy Lab guitars. So Gibson have released a new range of guitars, and they said they're not meant to be tributes to an era of guitars. I mean, there's a lot of guitars in that range of Murphy Lab guitars, but the most expensive are these late 50s Les Paul standards that are aged to be as if they're clones of the original. And they say that on their website. They say they are clones. They are not tributes. These are clones. So good for you, Gibson, for making a clone of your own guitar that you've been making for 70 years. Well done. Now you've found another way to justify a ridiculous price tag. I mean, I've got to say, disclosure, this is my opinion only. I'm always happy to be, argued otherwise, that I'm wrong. And if I am wrong, I happily admit it. But my feeling is that how can you justify that these guitars are worth what the equivalent of a small brand new car is, or multiple family holidays, a deposit on a house in some areas of this country? The top of the range model is about £9,000. And the argument from Gibson is that it's the culmination of about 25 years worth of knowledge and practice in making historic guitars. Laser measured, chemically identical plastics, aged by this Murphy Lab. And again, my kind of thought is this is all information they should already know. They're doing a clone of their own guitars, aren't they? This is their own stuff. It's not like they're doing it's not like a Resta mod car where somebody's doing a clone of something somebody else has made to make it better for the future. They're literally just trying to make something that looks and feels exactly like something old. The problem I have with it is that, these are meant to be like, this is the pinnacle of their guitar making, the best guitars they ever made in the late 50s. In the late 50s, when they made them, they didn't know they were making what was going to be that guitar. They discontinued them after a couple of years because they weren't really selling. They started making something else. And I just feel, maybe I'm just cynical about it, but I just feel like Gibson are just trying to ride a train of profit to get the most out of something that they can no longer make money from, because they're not selling these vintage guitars that are going for $200,000-$300,000 whenever they're sold. They don't own them. They're not making money from them anymore. They made money from them 60 years ago. I'm just really I don't understand how they can justify £9,000. I barely understand how they can justify nearly £3,000 for that standard model, when people like PRS, Music Man, John Suhr, for the same money are making pieces of art. And it makes me angry, because they're playing to a market of collectors and rich people that have the money to buy these things. And it's just, anyway, rant over for me.
I'm loving seeing how angry you're getting. I'm not because I enjoy watching you suffer, but because of the passion behind it. And look, you put your disclaimer in there to say you're happy to be proven wrong, but I don't think you can be wrong, Matt, because it's your opinion, right? It's your opinion. You're entitled to it, and it's your perspective and your point of view and how you feel about it, right? And so what I would say is everyone is entitled to their opinion. I think Ricky Gervais says it quite nicely, but not everyone's entitled to their own version of the facts, right?
That's right, yeah.
Which is a lovely phrase that he's coined. I don't know if it was his own, but I've heard him say it, and it stuck with me. So nothing that you've said there necessarily is factually incorrect in terms of the price of these guitars and what they're based on, and those kinds of things. Now, the opinion of it is how we feel about that as kind of gigging guitarists, right? So I'm a huge Gibson fan. I'm a huge Les Paul fan. I know these guitars Les Pauls can be quite a divisive instrument for some people. I speak to guitarist friends who go, I don't get on with them. The necks are too thick. The bodies are too heavy. The pickup selector switch is in the wrong place. I just don't get Les Pauls. And I'm in the opposite camp. I love a Les Paul, right? So what have we got here with the Murphy Labs, right? We've got a name, right, first and foremost, right? So Tom Murphy, arguably one of Gibson's most famous master builders, luthiers, who has created a prestige and a name around the guitars that he touches and what he does to them, be it from a electronics perspective, but more notably now from a kind of finishing, aging, relicking perspective, and even some of the Murphy paint jobs where he's done the kind of sunburst on them are kind of noted as, oh, that's a Murphy paint job on it. Look, even before it's been taken to with a razor blade or a temperature process to crack the nitrocellulose on it. He is Gibson's flagship builder, and quite a lot of these builders, right, at the moment, Fender are doing the same with some of the Cruise kind of master built stuff and their Abigail Ybarra pickups and all this kind of stuff. There is this thing now coming out of the custom shops from these manufacturers, where there is now a prestige and a price tag associated with owning what they are now putting out on the market as the best of the best of the best of what they do. And I think that's what the Murphy Lab stuff aspires to be. This is their best, luthier who has hand-selected stuff from the custom shop anyway, so it's not coming off a standard factory line, so it's supposed to be really good, and then he's applying his magic in a special lab with a team of dedicated people that he's trained up to make these guitars look and feel like a piece of musical art history, right? So I get the marketing, right, and I in some way subscribe to it. But then you look at the price tag and you go, okay, there's clearly a point of diminishing returns with a guitar, and we're way past that. And now they're trying to play in the realms of like luxury items, but I don't see the additional value that is coming from these guitars versus what I could get off a standard custom shop, historic R8 or R9. And to some extent, if you do your homework and you find the right one and even maybe do a little bit of upgrading yourself to some of the stock hardware or pickups, I don't see the incremental value above what you can get off the standard USA range, with these guitars, and add some natural wear and tear to it yourself. I must say, I don't see how they're justifying the extortion.
This is
of
what I
price.
mean. I think they're trying to profit off this kind of mojo of the 59, 58, the 1960 Les Pauls that, they left their factory, they left their ownership 60 years ago. And now they're worth something incredible. It's the thing that everyone talks about. It's the holy grail of vintage guitars. And I think this is just their way of trying to continue to profit some way in that kind of romanticism of a guitar they made years ago. I completely agree. I think £3,000-4,000 would be that's a reasonable price for it, because it's a collector's piece. It's something unique to you, and that is market value. But they're selling it for double that because I'm just cynical that this is pure profiteering.
Well, it is. It is. Let's be honest. It's sitting for a very particular niche of the market, which is there to be exploited. And you know what? These will all sell, Matt. These will absolutely all sell. These guitars. They will go to collectors and buyers. I don't think they'll go to gigging musicians necessarily, but if they do go to gigging musicians, it will be people that can afford to buy these, but will probably keep them as pieces for the studio or the home. Maybe they'll get out and be gigged. Maybe the whole point that they're slightly relicked anyway means that some wear, additional wear. But I mean, could you imagine taking a 10 grand guitar to a kind of function gig or a kind of wedding gig?
I can't imagine getting it out of the box.
Exactly. Yeah. So, and the thing that makes me a little bit cross about it all is every year in recent times, Gibson and the custom shop find a way to revitalize and reimagine the accuracy of their flagship 59, 58 replica copy, right? So every year we hear, oh, well, we've made the neck tenon that little bit longer now and it's more accurate than it was before, or we've used exactly the right composition of hide glue that we've painstakingly labored over for the last few years, and now it's got us even closer to the original 59. Or this year we've spent, millions and millions of dollars researching the exact plastics that were used back then, and now we bring it to you in this version of the 59. And that's just classic marketing, right? And some of it will be advances in technology, and they get a little bit closer every year to making these as close as they can to the original 58s or 59s. But this year, it's been a huge jump and leap in terms of price now, because you've got the Murphy name attached to it, and him and a small team are doing the relicking now, even to the point where the razor blade type relicking and crackling that was done on the nitrocellulose lacquer that he was famed for doing. Now they've discovered a new technique for him to do it, and it's all being done by temperature changes to crack the nitrocellulose and stuff. And you just go, this is all semantics and hyperbole now. It's a relict guitar. Some of them, it's ironic. The ones that look even more beat up and broken cost even more. It's just like, wow. Okay, so fine. It looks even more battered. I'm excited though for next year, Matt, when the Murphy Lab will take it to the next level and bring out a 59 Les Paul that's had its headstock snapped off and then repaired and refinished by Tom Murphy. So I'm looking forward to paying £15,000 for an accurate 59 headstock broken but Murphy Lab repaired guitar, fresh from the custom shop.
I think Fender are doing the same thing, aren't they? I think they're doing a Monterey Jimi Hendrix Strat, which when you open up the case, it's just a pile of ash with a neck kind of sat to one side. And that's going to be 12 grand, believe it or not. Well,
that's 12 grand well spent. It's an investment.
I love, amazing guitars. I'm a big fan of Gibson and Fender for the amazing guitars they've made, but I'm cynical about this because I just think it's an element of profiteering.
It is, and people will buy them and they will keep them as investment pieces, and good on them if they can. I mean, look, I'm not trying to come across as a dick, but if I wanted to, I could go out and buy one of these. But I won't. I will not pay that level of money for a guitar where I cannot see the incremental value that has been put into that guitar to make it something that much better than a standard custom shop guitar, as you said, £2,000-3,000, $4,000 price range. It's just not worth that to me. I think Gibson are exploiting a name in Tom Murphy and a heritage in the 59, which now, as you say, when you look at other premium guitar manufacturers, you can see where the likes of PRS and Suhr are making a guitar that is quality-wise and tone-wood-wise and playability-wise starting to justify those kind of premium levels. But who knows? We're going to go on once lockdown's over, we're going to go on a guitar tour of guitar shops with the podcast, and we're going to go and try some guitars out. I dare say this will be on the list. So let's watch this space and see if we end up eating our words or eating some humble pie, because who knows? Let's go and try one of these later in the year when the guitar shops are back open, and let's see if it really is the best Les Paul we have ever owned and its price is justified.
It's not going to be, but anyway, let's try. I've got to say as well, if you're a listener and you've seen these and you really, really desire them and you think otherwise, you're not wrong. Like you said earlier on, Kiran, it's my opinion and I'm not wrong. I mean, the only time an opinion's wrong if it's demonstrably nonsense, right? And I don't think this is the case. This is pure opinion. If you love these guitars and you like the look of them, you can afford them, go buy them. I think it's great if it's what you desire, but I just don't see the value. But anyway, let's put that to bed, shall we?
That was a good rant, wasn't it? I still love Gibson. I still love Les Pauls.
I feel like for days I've been thinking about this. thing. It's sad, isn't it? I have more important things happening in my life, but I've been like, how can you, anyway. No, stop. Let's move on.
I could honestly keep going, but we won't because we want to talk about some other stuff today, and we will revisit this. We will revisit this in a few months' time once we've tried one of these, and then we will see if we've had our minds changed on them. But today we're going to talk about something completely different. So to change topic and tact on this, you and I had an interesting chat by text message during the week, and we thought, let's talk about this on the podcast. And it was about guitarists that have influenced and inspired us, or just kind of helped us in terms of our approach to playing. And we thought it'd be nice to chat about that today, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Our idols, our influences of the years, and there's loads of them. I mean, it's almost kind of on a daily basis these days, especially with YouTube and Spotify. You can find a new person to be influenced and idolize on a daily basis almost. I mean, over the past couple of months, I can think of Joey Landreth, Tom Quayle, Ariel Posen, getting into Steve Lukather again. All these people who are so accessible. But I guess one of the things that we're thinking about is, for me, there's milestone influences in my life as a guitarist. For me, there's three particular people who I think of the most when I think about who are most important to me as an influence or as an idol. And there's reasons other than just their playing or their output as an artist that are why I think they're so important. And I guess, we want to talk about when in our lives we found them, what happened to us as guitarists when we were discovering them, how we felt about guitar, and why they resonate so much with us, what it is about them that we like so much. So sorry to interrupt this super interesting conversation. However, if you've made it this far, you should probably subscribe to the Guitar Smarts podcast. You can do that in your favourite podcast app. Go and do that now, and then come back to the show. Let's get back to it. For me, my first idol was Eric Clapton. He's the artist who I still think of the most when I think of a guitarist. I think he's one of the most important, arguably the most important guitarist who's alive today, not just because of his output as an artist, but what he's done for guitarists in general. Arguably he's responsible for being the first person to plug a Les Paul into a Marshall and turn it up loud. On the Marshall Blues, the Eric Clapton and John Mayall Bluesbreakers Beano album is one of the first albums you'll ever hear that is a Les Paul burst plugged into a Marshall amp cranked. Yeah. Probably his best work still to this day. But yeah, for me, Eric Clapton was the first real idol I had. So when I was 13, 94, 95, and just learning guitar for the first time, it was listening to his albums that were out at the time. So within like a 5-year period of that date, there was Unplugged, From the Cradle, 24 Nights, Journeyman. Those were the albums he had out around those times. And that's a real seminal time for him in terms of his guitar playing. His guitar playing on Unplugged is superb. His guitar playing on From the Cradle is ridiculous from a blues playing point of view. I don't think he'd been a better guitarist than he was around then. And the same with 24 Nights. 24 Nights was a great live album because there's a whole sweep of genres that he covers in that album, that live album. And there's some great guests as well, some great other musicians that, you get introduced to. And then Journeyman is just also a bit of a pop album rather than anything else, and that's a good listen. So that was a real good time for me learning to play guitar. Because there's so much material in that time from Clapton that is digestible from a guitarist's point of view, as well as being good music. What about you? Who would you say is your first big influence?
It was probably Clapton as well in terms of background in going on in my kind of family house growing up. My dad was a Clapton fan, and so that was probably my first foray into kind of listening and appreciating guitar-based music. But that was kind of almost subliminal because of my dad's music taste. Probably when I got into my teenage years, for me, like many kids in, I guess, like the 80s and 90s, it was Slash from Guns N' Roses. And he was it was yes, it was the guitar playing, but it was also that kind of period of looking for somebody that epitomized the kind of rock and roll lifestyle. There was nothing more rock and roll at the time than like Guns N' Roses. They were badged as the most dangerous band, and stuff like that. And it was, you look back on it now and you go, yeah, it's a bit of a cliche, really. But at the time, they were an explosive band, and I remember just idolizing the first and foremost, it was the guitar tone. It kind of spoke to me, that sound of a Les Paul through a really kind of overdriven, JCM, Marshall, like the 800s or the Silver Jubilees he was using a lot in those days. And that tone, I mean, that's just what spoke to me. And I think that was a recurring theme for guitarists that I have subsequently kind of tuned into is, I'm first and foremost taken back by the tone. It moves me in some way, and then I start to look at the player and what they're playing and things. And in that regard, Slash had that, and still does have that incredible tone for me, a great rock tone, blazing kind of licks that really kind of inspire me to play. But I would say, I've seen, him live on a number of occasions with Velvet Revolver. We actually have tickets to go and see Guns N' Roses, this reunion tour that was supposed to take place in the UK in 2020, but obviously because of COVID, that's been postponed, and now the gig's taking place next year. So I'm massively looking forward to that. Yeah, a huge influence on me. But for me as a teenager, that was somebody that was then a gatekeeper into a whole genre of music for me then to get into. His tone and his feel allowed me to then explore a few different avenues, right? Because yes, he's got this all-out rock, blazing rock tone, which then allowed me to, get into different kind of rock and metal bands from there. Alice in Chains, Pearl Jam, Metallica, Pantera, all of that kind of stemmed from, initially listening to Guns N' Roses and going, oh, well, what else could I listen to in this kind of vein that I like? But then also his blues side and his blues playing got me really interested in, okay, well, where does that come from? And that sent me in a different direction, trying to understand some of the blues bases behind his playing. So I think that's why he probably was at the time a huge influence on me in terms of just acting as a catalyst for me to get into a whole different stream of rock guitarists and rock bands, but also from a very accessible point of view, listening to some of that playing and going, well, that's quite bluesy, and where does that come from? And you kind of explore that direction and end up in a totally different place.
Yeah, it's a good point, isn't it? I think that's something that's similar to for me in terms of the Clapton influence is one, it's his playing, but two, he's the genesis point for me of. He's not Genesis. He's not Phil Collins and Tony Bennett. And what I mean is he's that kind of he's the patient zero, of all the other influences that I have. It's not that all the other key influences for me arguably are in a family tree that he's the top of. He's that gatekeeper, like you said, he's the host of so many other influences that you kind of go out and search for.
That's it.
And I'm sure that's the same for anyone. I mean, anybody who's listening now, you might have entirely different influences, but you're bound to have that one person or that one artist that was the one that made you start listening. And I'm sure it's still now you could trace everybody else you've ever listened to back to that person some way or another. It is very much like a family tree.
It is. It's like that kind of the degrees of separation between that artist and the ones that came before them, right? Because some of these are, like for Clapton, you kind of read his autobiography and what he was inspired by and what he listens to. And then you go, well, Clapton was that kind of gatekeeper for you and to some extent for me as well. Mm-hmm. Very much so. And you listen to all of his back catalogue and then you go, well, I need something more as well now. And I want to understand what inspired his playing. And so then you go back to some of the blues greats and you start listening to Robert Johnson and you start listening to all these guys and you go, Muddy Waters, I understand where this kind of stuff influenced his playing. So, these individuals that we're naming, it's really interesting to kind of look at them as artists in their own right. But then that was the conversation we were having playing during the week, which is quite a kind of an interesting one when you unpick it and you go, well, yes, there were influences on our playing, but of a time and of a moment that then allowed us to go and explore and discover all these other artists that then, became influencing forces in our playing in their own right.
Who would you say is your second largest influence? Or not necessarily second largest influence or second most important, but one of the things that we're talking about here is it influences and important idols through our life, because they don't just come at once at the beginning. For me, there's been waves of important guitarists and artists. Who's next?
Definitely.
On your list?
So if Slash for me was kind of in my teenage years and into my kind of late teenage years, I would say then into my kind of 20s, I was really starting to get into blues, and for me, that was Stevie Ray. That was my kind of Stevie Ray period, and of course, that's a massively obvious choice and name for many guitarists, right? And there's good reason for that, because the guy had monstrous tone, blazingly fast playing, but emotive playing, and that came across, and that spoke to me in kind of watching him. And again, I think I really liked that kind of image and legendary kind of status that was, formed around him. He was the guy that played on a Strat with a set of 13s and, did an inordinate amount of drugs and still played like that. And you kind of, you buy, or at least I did, I bought into this whole kind of magic around Stevie Ray, and not that I'm, advocating drug use or anything like that, but it's just kind of like you go, who is this guy that is just got this such interesting and complex and troubled life and yet plays like this? And so that really kind of allowed me as an access point to get into the blues more. But then, as we just spoke about, go, okay, well, who influenced Stevie Ray, right? Where did he get this sound from? Where did he get this playing from? And then you go, okay, Albert King and, Jimi Hendrix and all of these other people. And that's when I started to get into these people. And I'd heard Hendrix stuff before, but it didn't really kind of speak to me in that same way. But it wasn't until I then went back and listened to Hendrix after having listened to Stevie Ray for a while, or indeed same with Albert King, and you go, I get it now, and I appreciated it in a different way. So yeah, a massively obvious choice for me there with Stevie Ray. But I think it's again about the way in which it then spurred me on to learn more about where his sound comes from, and yes, appreciate him as an artist in his own right, but then also understand his influences and how he developed his sound and style. But how about you? Who was your next biggest kind of force after Clapton?
So I'd say probably Derek Trucks, but that happened quite a long time after. He's still a relatively young guitarist, and I'd say I was probably in my mid-20s when I learned about Derek Trucks. The thing that Derek Trucks opened up for me was the idea of this multi-genre capability as a guitarist, who had a unique sound, just immediately recognisable as a guitarist. One of the first times I'd heard somebody since SRV and Clapton and people like that, those older guys. One of the first times I'd heard somebody who was of, I guess, my generation, who had such a unique and recognisable guitar sound and playing style, with just seemingly infinite capability as a guitarist as well. I mean, he's arguably the greatest slide guitar player of all time.
Incredible.
But he's an incredible, fingerstyle guitarist as well. Fingerstyle, as in not playing slide. Incredible at normal guitar. Normal guitar. He's just an incredible all-round guitarist. But he's almost a fusion guitarist because, he's a brilliant blues guitarist, brilliant rock guitarist. He can do any style at all. He's almost stealth-like in his ability. Listening to him play is like listening to Aretha Franklin sing. It's not the same as just another guitarist playing licks. He sings through his guitar. And I just found that amazing listening to him for the first time. And the first time I heard him was the Derek Trucks Band live album. And I can't remember what the live album was called off the top of my head now. But it's just there's this song on it called For My Brother, which it's about an 11-minute long song, and half of it is him soloing. And it's just endless fury on the guitar and just beautiful guitar playing. I still haven't heard, guitar playing like it. I think there's guitarists out there that, you could say, you could imitate Clapton, you can say such a person sounds like Stevie Ray. Philip Sayce, for example, great guitarist. For me, he's a little bit too much of a Stevie Ray tribute, in his sound. He's obviously wears that on his sleeves, incredible artist. But he's very Stevie Ray influenced. And Clapton, you can hear Freddie King and BB in Clapton's playing. You can hear all these influences. Whereas for me, Derek Trucks sounds almost, you can't imitate him. He sounds like him. He's almost completely unique in his sound. And that's why, for me, he's one of, my other, biggest influences, because he's just so unique.
That's a really good point, and I think I really like Derek Trucks as well. Really like. I had the pleasure of going and watching Tedeschi Trucks just before we went into lockdown. I think it was. The time I've lost all track of time, but yeah, it was the last live gig I went to before lockdown in London, and incredible player. It really was, and I was blown away by Susan Tedeschi as well. And as you say, he has that melodic vocal gospel phrasing to his playing, which it's arresting to listen to, because it is different, it is unique. And there are other players now that are starting to kind of integrate that into their playing in a way that my ear is now tuned into. But Derek Trucks was the gatekeeper for me to understand and listen to that sound first and go, I've never heard a guitarist been able to affect that style so beautifully on a guitar with his slide playing. So really,
absolutely.
Really great.
He's just incredible. So if you've never heard Derek Trucks play guitar, he's, as you said, he's part of the Tedeschi Trucks band, but he's also, part of the Derek Trucks band, which I don't think has played for about 10 years, but go and check out some of their albums. Songlines is an amazing album. Any of the Derek Trucks live albums, Songs from the Road, things like that, are just fantastic songs. Just a killing band, but his guitar playing is just arresting, like you said. It really is just unbelievable. Really, really amazing. So let's move on to the last one. And I think we share this one, don't we?
We do. I don't know if for the same reasons, but both of us have got a real, fondness and a place in our kind of influencer kind of history with John Mayer. And we've had the pleasure of going to watch him live on a few occasions and come away really, inspired by him as a guitarist. And again, I think another kind of classic choice, right? But for me, he's somebody that embodies great guitar playing, but encompasses and spans a number of different genres and styles, and challenges himself and reinvents himself in different ways. Some of which I'm a fan of, some of which I go, I kind of prefer the other stuff you did. But I think respect to an artist that can constantly challenge and push himself in those kind of different ways. And again, as a gatekeeper for discovering other artists and listening to what influenced him. Now, obviously, he's heavily influenced by Stevie Ray, and that clearly comes across in his playing. But, embarrassingly, I kind of say he was the person that turned me on to listening to more B.B. King. And I say embarrassingly because I was listening to John Mayer so much more latterly more recently in my, years, that I should have been into B.B. King much more deeply than relying on John Mayer to access that for me. But that's again another reason why I like John Mayer as a player, because he's allowed me to access other artists that I wasn't listening to as intently as I perhaps should have been, but listening to his playing has enabled me to do that. And and he's just a monstrous guitarist. That technique-wise, I look at, and some of the kind of inversions and stuff that he does with his kind of fretting hand, you just look at it and you just go, I can't even do stretches like that. That's just insane. But there's something quite inspiring about that as a player. And he's taught me a lot about kind of rhythmic playing as well. And he's just has got a real solid groove in some of the stuff that he plays, which I think has been really beneficial for me to try and steal bits of to kind of influence and improve my playing. How about you with John Mayer? What kind of was the thing that made your ears prick up when you heard him?
Well, the first thing I heard of his was his first album, Room for Squares, which is much more of a kind of an acoustic pop album. Well, not acoustic pop only, but it's much more of a pop album. Still some great guitar playing in there. But I got into that album around the time that he released Continuum, so I kind of discovered Room for Squares. Oh, I like this. What else is there? Oh, he's just released Continuum. And Continuum for me was like the Clapton Unplugged of my adult life. I often refer to Mayer as the Clapton influence of my adult life, because whereas Clapton was the one that made me say to my parents, I want to learn how to play guitar, John Mayer, for me, when I was in my mid-20s, was the person who I listened to and thought, I want to get back into playing guitar again, because I was probably playing guitar the least around that time in my mid-20s. He's very much that kind of second impetus in my guitar playing. But the thing I like the most about him is he's kind of the torchbearer for that kind of earlier generation of guitarists, who we said, those people that started things off. He's able to apply that style of guitar playing to his pop sensibilities and still make really relevant and popular music now, whilst, we can, as guitarists, still listen and go, okay, he's doing a B.B. King thing there. I really like the way that he does that, the way that he's always been a champion for his idols whilst still creating very relevant and, popular music today. And he's a great guitarist, and that goes without saying. He's a very muscular guitarist. I don't mean physically. I mean, he's playing always sounds so. You just, in a similar way, Stevie Ray Vaughan was so intense. His guitar playing always sounded so immediate and muscular. I don't know how else to describe it. That's the way it is to me. Clapton's was always a little bit more, the woman tone, and it was always a little bit more kind of velvety.
I know. I get you. I get what you're saying.
I'm sure any guitarist understands what I'm saying, but I find it hard to describe. But yeah, that's the thing I like about Mayer. He's kind of that very inspiring listening to him play.
Yeah, there's an intensity that comes across in his playing that makes it feel kind of effortless, and that translates into the listener. You can hear that. Where I agree with you, like when you listen to Clapton, and to some extent Derek Trucks, until he's really ripping into a solo, it is that more kind of velvety, kind of just riding in sympathy with the music. Whereas there's a disruptive nature to some of the playing that Mayer has when he really digs in. It's kind of arresting. So I understand what you're saying when you say muscular.
Muscular. I don't mean he's ripped.
I just tried to bail you out from sounding as homoerotic as you were. I mean, do you feel like when he's singing "Your Body Is a Wonderland," he's singing just to you?
God, stop it.
He's a great player. But the thing that interests me about this is, and you've said it as well, Matt, is there are so many people that kind of influence our playing, and now with YouTube and the access that you have to stumbling upon these new artists, it's kind of mind blowing every day how many talented people there are out there making music. And I'm influenced on a daily basis by like loads of different people now. But I think the ones that we've mentioned are a really good, hall of fame in terms of our life of playing guitar thus far. And not just because they're amazing players in their own right, but they've kind of inspired us to kind of keep pushing our own playing. And they've also acted as gatekeepers for us to discover new artists that influence them. And that's how you kind of build up this kind of sensibility and ear for different musicians. I think I don't know who stated it, but I think there's this kind of sensibility around either having so many influences that you can't count them to inform your playing, or having none at all. And there are a few great guitarists that are able to have no influences at all and just have their own complete unique style developed on their own in a little vacuum. Most of us love to steal and borrow and pinch little ideas from loads of different people, and that's where you hopefully then develop your own style and kind of feel. And I love nicking ideas from different people and borrowing a lick and working it into my playing, it's really rewarding.
And maybe to us, we listen to ourselves play and we think, oh, I just sound like Clapton or Stevie Ray or John Mayer. But to somebody else listening, they hear us. Maybe that's for other people to enjoy rather than ourselves. Who knows?
Yeah.
I'm just glad we've managed to get to a podcast without mentioning Steve Lukather.
Oh, he's done it again. Yeah. Well, if we were to record this podcast again in the future, I think. Matt, could you tell me some of the influences that you had during the lockdown period? Yeah, who are your top three? Steve Lukather, Steve Lukather, and Steve Lukather.
Steve Lukather, Solo, Toto, and Lost Lobotomies.
That's it. Isn't that the same person, Matt? I don't know.
Yeah, it is. What are you going to do about it?
No, great chat. And look, hopefully for our listeners, that's given some people some maybe additional places to go and look for inspiration. And it'd be really interesting to hear from our listeners as to who inspires them and who they love listening to. But yeah, really, really interesting chat today, Matt. Just a quick question before we wrap it up. You've been trying out some different strings and things. On your Strat. How have you got on this?
Yeah,
this
really
last
good.
week?
So going back, obviously, a couple of months to when we did our Guitar Care 101, the 8 steps, and you mentioned about guitar strings, and I think we also later on a different podcast had a discussion about how different string materials can change your sound, and a quick run through. So what I did, I stopped using Ernie Ball slinkies. I still think they're great. I just wanted to experiment with others. The first one I tried was a set of pure nickel 10s from Kurt Mangan. And those were just superb. They darkened the sound of the Strat a little bit. That ice picky kind of tone on the bridge pickup was gone. It was more manageable. So that was good. They felt like they had a little bit more of a consistent tension across the set of strings, which made for a more comfortable feel. So I really like those. I've currently got a set of Roto Sound 10s on there as well, which they feel more like a slinky, but with a little... a slightly darker, more rounded sound, I feel. You mentioned that they're a really good kind of reference set of strings, and I really see that. I really feel that when I'm playing them. I feel like this is a good all-rounder for everything. And then next, I've got a set of D'Addario stainless steels, these are about the brightest sounding strings apparently you can get, so I'm going to try those soon and see how we get on. But I'm really enjoying experimenting with different strings, and who knows what I'll end up on, but yeah, it's cool. Yeah,
good. I'm glad you've kind of been able to experiment with the differences in materials on those strings and kind of hear them for yourself. Really interesting. I mean, it's not a scientific experiment, and we're definitely not endorsed by any of these manufacturers, but I think it's just a fun thing to play around with, the actual different material properties of strings and seeing how that affects the tone on your guitar. I'm definitely keen to put a set of 9s on this Harley Benton that I've been playing with this week. I've had 10s on it, and it sounds wonderful, but I've reset up and balanced the trem on it, and I'm trying to do some more of these kind of Sambora licks for the first time in my life and play some fast stuff on it, and 10s are killing me. So it's going to get a set of 9s this week, and I'm going to finish learning that solo and then figure out something else to challenge myself with. So that's my week ahead.
Enjoy it, dude, and I will see you on the flip side.
Yeah, that's great. Cheers, Matt. Lovely to speak to you. Speak to you next week.
Speak to you soon. Right. All the best,
buddy. Take it easy. Cheers, mate.
Well, that was another super fun conversation. I really hope you enjoyed it. Remember to come over to our social media pages, tell us what you think, ask us some questions, come and say hello, anything at all, share some information with us, give us ideas for podcasts that you'd like to hear and subjects that you'd like to hear us talk about in the future. And brilliant. Thanks very much for joining us, and we'll speak to you again soon. Take care. Bye-bye.